Hello guys, hello everyone, I'm Lubo, I'm the CEO of STRV, and I would like to sincerely welcome you here. It seems like I see a lot of familiar faces, so this is a group merging the people from STRV as well as from the outside. I think that we have 13 engineers from STRV that are interested in learning more about Nodejs, and 19, if I'm not mistaken. 19 from the outside. We saw a huge interest from the community, and unfortunately we had to reject some people, so you are the lucky ones that we selected for this 8-week course. And I wanted to, the guys, they prepared really top stuff for you to learn quickly, and also the process is set up in a way that you have a chance to get direct feedback from our engineers. Michael, who is leading our backend team, will make sure that everything goes very smoothly. Joshka has some very interesting lectures prepared, so should look forward to that. And I hope that you will enjoy it, and you will get as much of experience out of that. And just wanted to say that we really want to be part of the community and do something for cultivating the environment here in Prague, and that's why we do this event. And we are really happy that we can host you here for 8 weeks, and hopefully you will find it very useful and it will help to grow your career going forward. And that's just a very brief introduction from my side. I'm happy that after a long time I actually have an opportunity to be present at one of our events. We do probably 10 events a month, and I spend so few time here in Prague that I have not been to one event of ours for a long time, so I'm really happy that I have a chance to talk to you here today. And that's pretty much it from my side for now. And I'd like to pass the word to Michael to tell you more about what you can expect. So enjoy the Node.js nights, and good luck with learning some new skills.
So hello, I'm Michael, and I'm leading the backend team, as we've already said. And I'm going to tell you a couple of organizational stuff and how we will be processing these Node.js nights. I'm not as pro as Lubo, so I need to have a note, so I will not forget about anything. So anyway, as Lubo mentioned, we had a huge interest from the people, so you are the chosen one. So congratulations at first. And as you probably know, the goal of these sessions will be to learn you and you to teach how to code in Node.js. We prepared a lot of content from you. We should cover all the basics, but the most work will be up to learn it, because just listening to 8 sessions will be not enough. So it will require some time also on your end. And we are here to assist you, and actually each of you will receive a mentor, some of our backend engineers here, and he will be here to help you with any questions you will have during these 8 weeks. So it will be an 8 weeks, 8 sessions, where first 2 sessions will be more general. First one will be about JavaScript. Second one will be about Node.js and the environment itself. And after the third session, we will start coding some virtual project we made up. It's called Dogbook. It's like Facebook for dogs. No special meaning why it's Dogbook. We just found that this particular case has all the use cases we need to demonstrate various functionalities. So from week 3 to the end, we will be working on one project from the beginning to the end. And most of the sessions, or all of the sessions, will be mostly about live coding. But in order to be as effective as possible, we will be coding, you will be watching, you can code if you want, but we will not be waiting for everyone to code the same thing. But don't worry, we covered also that part, so you can code and try. And that's we will give you a homework after each week. Of course, the homework is optional. But if you want to get the most from these sessions, I recommend you to do these homeworks. And the whole homework will be by default from the week 3 to code the same thing as we already coded in your own repository. And if you want, we can help you or guide you if you are stuck somewhere. We create the Slack for you, so you can contact us anytime and we will help you. And also, all the things which we will code will be shared publicly in a GitHub repository, so you can check it anytime. So that way you can try it, and during the sessions you can fully focus on what will be happening on the screen in his computer. And also on that screen. So, did I forget something? Really, I'm not sure. Okay, I suppose I covered everything I wanted, like high level about these sessions. If you have any questions, you can ask anytime. And I just want to wish you a good luck, and I hope you will become Node.js developers very soon. And
Hi guys, we already met probably because we had some hangout calls together, so it's nice to see you live and here with us. I also would like to welcome our internal guys. We have a bunch of them in the back from, or also in front, sorry, from our front-end iOS and Android team, so that's great to see you all together. Yeah, we have a really busy schedule, so I will make it short. I just wanted to really welcome you and tell that we want to make this group as interactive as possible. So you are not in a class, you just don't need to sit and be in quiet. Please, raise your hands or shout out if you want to share something. It's really welcome. And some organization things. In the book, black book in front of you, there's a QR code to sign in for the Node.js Night Slack channel. I really recommend you to join this channel as soon as possible because there will be all the interesting stuff happening. There are separated channels like the general channel where we will share information for you all. You can also have a social channel for fun or some jokes related to Node.js. And there are also separated channels for every single week. So we can discuss topics related to the week we had. And also what's a good point is that you have a contact for every single speaker, every single mentor from Node.js Nights there. So you can easily get in touch with them and ask if you missed something or if you need anything to explain. For you, external guys, not members of STRV, you have a dedicated mentor on your black card on the back side. So there is a red sign who is your mentor, so you can get in touch with him after today's class, where they will be all upstairs for a beer, so you can make a friendship with him. And for our internal STRV guys, there are for sure all the mentors available anytime. You can just stop by their desk and ask, so it's much easier for you. But for you, you have your dedicated mentors, so you can, for example, discuss some topics related to Node.js, so over a beer or just on Slack, whatever you prefer. So please use this contact and take the most of it. What's next? We have 8 weeks. We have a party tonight, to get to know each other better. There will be also a party at the end of the course, at the very end after 8 weeks to celebrate it. So save your date for that. After every single session, we will send you a short feedback form to know how you like the lesson, if it was useful, if you would prefer something else for the next time, and it's also a welcome feedback for our speakers and mentors to get better, right? Even this year we have a second round of Node.js Nights. The first one was actually led just by Yoshika. This year we have more mentors, so they will share more things with you. So we hope that we also improve the Node.js Nights concept a bit. Right. Good. I think everything important was mentioned. Maybe the last note is that you probably stop at the desk at the reception. It would be really nice if you can every single week when you will come, just stay there, stop there and say your name, so girls at the reception will know that you came in for the lesson, because we really would we really would love you all to come for all our sessions. So So I think that's it. Please sign into your Slack channel, write down your name on your name tag so we know who is who. And yeah, let's do it. Good luck, guys.
Do we have enough air? Just a quick scan.
Yeah, and please just let us know if you won't be able to listen correctly, if there will be no air, if you will be thirsty or hungry or whatever. Please let us know if we can make it happen. Right? Good.
Okay, so I guess we can begin today. So I'm here today to talk a little bit about JavaScript. So I will start immediately because we have like lots of things to cover, and I hope we will fit into those 2 hour time span. So first I will start with a question. How many of you are JavaScript developers? Cool, quite. So, and how many of you are using JavaScript on a daily basis to work? Oh, that's quite nice. Cool. Never mind. So for those who are already JavaScript developers, it might be like this session might be like recap for you a little bit. But we have people among us that are coming from different environments like Java, C#, PHP. So we would like to give you some solid foundation and something we can build on top of. Yeah. So okay, let's start with JavaScript. So I remember days when we were saying like, oh, JavaScript will die. It's like it can never survive, like because there were like attempts, to replace it. There are things like Flash, Java applets and these kind of things, but all these attempts were not successful. And what happened? The opposite happened, and JavaScript became language because of Nodejs, became language also for server side, for building server side. So and it gained popularity back, and now I would say it's one of the most popular languages at all. But keep that in mind. It's all language, so some concepts in that language are kind of strange for people coming from Java or C# or different languages. So I'm not going. I definitely don't want to teach you how to write if loops and if statements and for loops and these kind of things. But I would like to just cover things that are not really clear for people coming from different environments. For me, for example, I was like C# developer for 6 years, and when I transferred to JavaScript, I was like, oh really, this is how it works in some particular cases. So I would like to cover these, so you have like understanding of these concepts, and you know them, and you don't encounter issues that might be caused because of some misunderstanding. So maybe one question might be, why would anyone use JavaScript nowadays? I think there are 2 main reasons why it's great. And first one is community. Because you have so many packages for basically everything. And when we are building backends nowadays, we are usually integrating different services together, right? If we want to send email, if we want to issue a payment, then we usually pick some service. For example, for payments there is Stripe. For emails there is AWS simple email service, and we don't write these things from scratch, but we are usually using these services to do it for us. So basically, backend coding nowadays is basically about integrating these pieces together and make them useful somehow for your business. And when you look at these services, they usually come with packages written for JavaScript, but that couldn't be safe for languages like, I don't know what's called today, Golang. Yeah? So it's kind of new language, but those packages that are out there for JavaScript, they are not yet there for these new languages. So it's faster for us to develop it, and we as a company are building like
mostly like startup projects and things that are like evolving pretty fast. So we need to react fast, and this is like probably the fastest track where we can get. And what I see like recently, I think like even big corporations are starting to see these trends, that using these open source tools is faster for building their stuff, and they are switching to Node.js as well. Another thing is JavaScript is native in browsers, which is great because when you have code in JavaScript on server and native code in JavaScript in the browser, then the communication between those two is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. JSON is native for both sides. You can even share code between those two pieces, so it kind of goes together quite well. So don't think that JavaScript is all languages it used to be. It's evolving, and we have ECMAScript standards. Each ECMAScript standard defines like set of features that language should have. And so if browser claims that it supports ECMAScript 2016 or ES6, then it has to have all these features that are listed in that standard. You can count that Node.js basically covers basically everything from ECMAScript 2015, everything from 2016, and even some features from 2017. I recommend this page. You can look at it briefly. I'm not sure why it's dark, but is it dark on that as well? Okay. Maybe it's because I'm presenting or something. I think it's because I'm recording it. Never mind.
Is it better?
A little bit. So here, this is a page where they have like tests for each functionality, and whenever you look at this question mark, you can see what the test is doing, and you can see in which Node.js version that thing is supported. Yeah, so you could see that nightly or latest Node.js, which is 10.11, supports basically everything from ECMAScript 2015, and I could scroll to 2017, and you can see that there is ES-Next, which is like not defined yet. It's not so there are some feature proposals, but they are not yet implemented in browser. So basically, Node.js uses JavaScript engine from Chrome, so it's V8. So basically, everything that's supported in Chrome, you will have in Node.js nowadays. Yeah. So just keep that in mind. Okay. So I want you to try it as soon as possible. What you can use for it, I will use mostly VS Code. If you want, you can popularize WebStorm, Atom, Sublime, install whatever you like. I think VS Code is quite okay. How to run locally? The easiest way is to install Node.js from official pages. You can go directly there. There are two versions. One is called long-term support version, and one is like current. So this is recommended for larger projects. They are this is like stable, total stable version. But we usually use the latest, and we have never problems with that. That we would encounter issue that would be connected to like Node.js itself. So it's usually very well tested, and I think Google invests some time to make it like V8 engine compatible with Node.js. So that's nice. Okay, so what we will cover today, we will mostly code. I'm almost done with speaking, just talking. I will mostly code. So we will touch variable scopes, something about objects, about this binding, strict operators, prototype chain, closures, symbol iterators and generators, async constructs, and that could be all. It's a lot of stuff. I will go like through this like shallowly, or so don't expect that I will like dive deep into all these things. But I would like you to be aware of these concepts and understand them, because I think it's great to understand it once and properly, and then you can avoid all the issues connected to like misunderstanding these concepts. Okay, let's code. Okay, so we will start with something about. Okay, can you see that? See this? Is it like
maybe a little larger?
larger? It is. I'm still not sure why it's. I hope I don't record different screen.
Don't say it.
Should I restart it now?
It's up to you, like.
Okay, so you should be always aware of what version you are currently using, and you can check your node. So if when you install Node, you will have new Node command. So you can check version with Node V and look at what version you are currently using. I recommend to use some Node version manager, because Node.js versions they are releasing it quite often, and it's good to have something where you can switch between versions if you need to. So one of such tools is called just N, and you can then pick whatever version you want. So I'll keep this, and so for example, let's imagine I have a test function. So if I run this in version like 6 something, that's okay, but if I would use like async keyword, which came in ECMAScript 2017, then it wouldn't work, because it would not understand what that async means. So just keep that in mind, that you should always develop with the same Node.js version as you will have on the server. So for example, AWS Lambdas, they support just few versions, what you can pick there. And if you are using Node.js AWS Lambdas, then you could pick the version that Node.js that AWS supports there, because otherwise you could encounter issues connected to different versions. So be aware of that. Who knows what is strict mode? So JavaScript is interpreted language. There is no compilation. There is some compilation on the fly, but basically how JavaScript engine works, they read line by line basically and interprets those lines and execute them. So you can tell that engine that you will use stricter mode of JavaScript. What it means is, for example, let's imagine you have an object, for example, like this. First name is John. And, sorry. And if I do this, and rename that guy to Mark, that's okay, right? Nothing serious. What if I do something like this? I can say, okay, make those all properties just readable. And if I run it, then it tells me, hey, you are assigning to read-only property. But if I don't use strict mode, what happens now is it just ignores that statement, basically. So if I would console log it out, object first name, you could see that basically nothing happened, that Mark wasn't assigned there, but nobody told me that statement did nothing, basically. So what comes out of that? Basically, always use strict. Strict mode is something you want always, because you want to be aware of such things that you are doing some assignments and which are not permitted. So you should be aware of those issues before pushing it live, right? So that's just one note about strict mode. Node.js has a special option called use strict. So if I execute it like this and without having this statement here, it will use strict mode automatically. If you are using tools like TypeScript, Babel is something that can take your newer JavaScript and translate it to older version of JavaScript so that older browser can understand it. So if you are using these tools, these usually generate that use strict statement for you. So you usually don't need to use write it when you are using these. Okay, does it make sense to you? All good? If you have questions, just ask immediately. Go back to that. You can always ask on Slack, right? But on this lecture, you can ask immediately. Because if you have question, probably someone else will have question as well. The same question. Okay, so something about variable scopes. So in all versions of JavaScript, we have just var keyword, right, for defining variables. So let's imagine that we would have some test function that would take some condition. You probably noticed this JavaScript is dynamic language. There are no compile time types. You can basically change types during runtime. But you probably all know, right? So let's say I would write something like this. And say, okay, name is John here. What happens if I do console of name and call it like this? Guesses? Basically, everything is okay because variable defined with var keyword is so-called function scope. That means that it's available on the whole function scope. So this function scope starts here, right, and ends here. So if I define variable whenever in this function with var, it will be available in the whole function. So you can, JavaScript will basically do something like this. It will take this statement, put it, I'm not sure what it will put it here and define it like this. Yeah. In newer version, we have replacement for this keyword, and it's called const and flat. So if I define it like this, const, what this gives me is an error because const is not function scope, but it's block scope. So this is behavior that you would expect from other languages. So it's only available on in this block. The same applies for let keyword. The difference is that with const I cannot reassign the value. So if I would do something like this, then it would comment this out. It would tell me, hey, you are assigning to constant variable, you cannot do that. But with let keyword, that's totally okay. Just be confused, don't be confused. I often see sometimes in our test projects that people are thinking that if I define an object as a const object, and I say John here, then it means that it's only constant reference to that object. It doesn't mean that I wouldn't be able to change internal field of that object. So this is totally okay. Totally okay. What is not okay is this. Does it make sense? Yeah, so this object is lying somewhere on the heap. I have constant reference to that object, but I can change fields in the object lying on the heap memory form. Okay, can I leave it? Cool. Okay, let's look at objects. So you saw that I was using something like this to define object, like, okay, person is object. You could see sometimes something like this. That's basically the same thing. This is like a replacement. This is just literal for like simplified. So you could do new object and then say, okay, person first name is John and person last name is Doe. About JavaScript objects, you can think of JavaScript objects as a collection of things, and you can put things into that collection and you can extract things, remove things out from that collection. So basically, I will refer to those collections like, let's imagine a box, right? So if I do new object, I create a new box. If I do assignment, I basically put new item in that box. What I can do, I can remove items from that box as well. So I can delete some stuff from the object. So what it means, if I console log it, then you would see that first name disappeared because I deleted. I could basically do the same with the literal. I can define it either like this, or I can define it right here. So just with colon. Those items in that collection doesn't need to be just values with name, but it could be nested objects as well. So address is like nested object. So street, something, what I can also put there is function. So let's say hello, and I can say it's function. Hello. I can simplify this with writing just this. So it's shortcut. So don't be confused that you could see just like the shortcut there. What I can do, if I have some, let's say, computed name, which would be like a result of some computation, let's say, I don't know, it could be, whatever, I can use that computed field as a key, as a name for that field like this. Compute name is, I don't know, something. Yeah, so this is when you need to access that. Use some computation for the field name. Make sense so far? All good? You're with me? Okay. Now we'll start a little bit more awkward. Okay, I'll just check that I have everything. Okay. So there's another way how to add things into that box. I can say object define property and say, okay, in person define new property called age, and I could give it like value, for example, 20, whatever. I'm not 20 by the way, but then you can specify three things: writable, configurable, and enumerable. What these three mean is that if it's writable, then you can change that field. So what I did with that object freeze, I basically changed the writable property to false. Then configurable is whether you can change this configuration of the property and whether the property can be actually deleted from that object. And enumerable is what you can do in JavaScript. You can use for-in loop that can go through all the items in the box and tell you what are the names of those fields in that box. So let's say I want to go through person, iterate through all the fields of person. So I'll call it field name. And I'll just console field name. So 3, first name, address, say hello, age. If I change this to false, it will be not included into this enumeration. Age is missing now. Make sense? Okay. So you can give some configurations to it, but you can even define getter and setter here if you want to, but you cannot specify value then. So you can, I don't know, return 30. Yeah, so, and if I change it to true again, then I should see, oh, if I console person age, then I should see, oh, nothing's wrong, and I cannot specify value and writable. Yeah, I have no setter, so it has to be false. So, okay. Value or writable attribute? Oh, okay, I have to complicate it. Hopefully. Yeah, so you can define setter as well. So that's different way. It's not used very much, but be aware that it can be there, and some libraries might take advantage of this. So just keep it in mind. But you will probably not need it that much. But I really want you to know about this, because unless you know, you could feel like, hey, what happened in this code, and you might not understand. Okay. So I will leave this part and I will go to more interesting part, which is this binding. So that's something I was like really surprised when I came to JavaScript, and I think many people are surprised until now. Okay, so let's imagine I have. Okay, we have friendly environment. I will call my object killer. And let's say that killer name has John, and he can do things. He can kill people, right? So we can tell him who and where, and he says, okay, I am this name, and I will kill who in where. Okay? So, if you are coming from languages like C# as I was, you would expect that this would always reference that killer object, right? Because it's defined in that. The function is defined in that object. But that's not the way how JavaScript works, because if I use function like this, this thing is basically context of that function on which that function was invoked. So if I do something like this, killer kill, and I can say, okay, kill Mark at Paris, in Paris. that works as expected because that function kill was called on this killer, and this killer will become the context of that function. So it will become this thing. But what basically in JavaScript, the caller of that function decides what that context will be, and he can or they can change that context. How? So first imagine that someone would just extract that function from that killer. I can say, okay, let's take that function. I can have like variable of function type. That's totally okay in JavaScript. Functions are first-class citizens in JavaScript, so they can be passed around. And if I call it without anything, then you will see that this context is undefined now. Yeah. So because that kill method wasn't executed on any context, so this is basically not defined here. Make sense? All good? Questions? No? Good. There are 3 ways how I can redefine that context in JavaScript. So now it's starting to be a little bit strange. I can call function on function, which is called call. And I can say first argument is this argument. So it's that context that I will pass to that function. So I can say name is John, but it's Brian because that's the killer I like, right? So I can say Paris. So what happens now is you would see that I'm Brian and I will kill Mark in Paris. So I basically told that function that it's this thing is this object. Make sense? There's another way how to redefine that context. I can call apply, and by the way, I will share that code if you want just to, you can. The difference between those two is that those parameters here are passed as an array. Yeah. So, but it will work basically the same way. It will redefine the context, and but those parameters are not like defined one by one, but passed in an array. Third way is a function called bind. What bind does, so if I call kill bind basically copies that function and binds context to it. So I can say, okay, name is Joe in this case, and I will create a new function, kill bind it, let's say. So bind will create a new function from that original function and bind context to it. So if I call it like this, and say Mark and in Paris, I'll see as expected Joe, I'll kill Mark in Paris. Make sense? Cool. Okay. Let's go deeper. Let's say that there is some counter here, and killer can count. Okay, I'll define a function. What if I run, let's say, interval that will take a function? Do you know all set interval? Set interval method basically calls the function like periodically. Yeah, so I can say for like after 1 second, each second run this function. Yeah. What if I do like okay, console log this counter plus plus. or oh. Let's see what happens. Oh. Where is it? Oh. So that's right. Why is that? Because I didn't change that context, right? I didn't, but JavaScript did. Because set interval is like global method. And this call will be executed internally by Nodejs on global object, or like globally, and it will not put any context to that, pass any context to this function. So this would be undefined, right? Or something like global. And counter is not defined, so when I'm increasing counter, it's not a number. Yeah. So how can I avoid this? What you could see in JavaScript, like in old ages, you would see something like this. Like self is this, and I want like self increase counter. Now it works. Because I stored a reference to what that function, what was context for this function, and I passed it to that inner function. Yeah, makes sense? But nowadays we have better way how to do this, and it's called arrow functions. Because you have another way how to define a function, and it's basically just changing this from this to this. Arrow function is just normal function, but it behaves a little bit differently in terms of context binding. So it will take that context from that outer scope. So if this function will have this context set to killer, then also this function will have that context set to killer. Okay, makes sense? So let's try it. Okay, so now it's okay. Yeah, so just keep that in mind that arrow functions are different than normal functions. So it's not like arrow function will totally replace functions. That's not true because binding works differently. Any questions about this? No? No? You are afraid, right? No? Don't be afraid. We can discuss this. It's strange. I agree. I was surprised when I found out. So, do you understand this binding? Yeah. All good? All good. Okay, how much time do we need? You are totally okay. Fine, perfect. Strict operators, another topic. Okay, it's easy one. It's for relaxation. Let's say, okay, you can guess. What happens if I write this? And what happens if I write this? So, any guesses on what will be the output?
False true.
Exactly. That's correct. You can check. False true. Why? This is when you use like 3 letters, that's called strict operator. And what it does, it just compares those two things. But if you use just this operator, by the way, I have this cool font which converts it to this nice looking thing, but it's basically three equal signs. So if it's called fire something. I can send it to you. It's really very cool. You can do other stuff like this. For example, if you are writing pipes and this kind of thing. Functional languages, it's super cool. Okay, that's just not binding. Okay, so what JavaScript does in this case is when you don't use strict operator, it will do implicit conversion of those arguments.
So it will look at those arguments and say, okay, this is string, this is number. So I'll try to find some type into which I can convert both of these arguments. So every number can be converted to string. So it will pick string and convert this parameter to string and compare those two strings. Yeah? So my recommendation is use always strict operators, because you should be aware of what you are doing with types and you don't want some hidden code. Or you should tell because someone will read the code after you, and you should let them know that you are changing types back and forth. So if you really need to convert this to string, you can, right? Because, or let's say you want to do a number from this, and you can just typecast it and say, okay, it's number, like this. I wanted to write here, so you write that. Yeah. So now it should work. Does it make sense? So far so good? Not bored? Okay. Good. Okay, now hard stuff. Prototypes. So the way how inheritance works in JavaScript is totally different from any other language probably. Or I don't know if any language has prototype chain. Do you think of any? I can't. I'm not sure. But how it works? Remember when I told you that you can think of JavaScript objects as boxes? So basically, it works like this. You have, when you want to inherit some methods, let's say, you can join two boxes. And JavaScript will first search in the one box, and if it will not find the thing in the box, it will go use reference pointing to another box and find it there. And you can chain as many boxes as you want. So I'll visualize it a little bit. So let's imagine something like this. Let's say you have object called child, and I can connect it to another object. I'll call it parent. And both those boxes will have one item, like name, like called name. So let's construct this. So I'll create parent with name. Parent. Parent. Okay, I'll just switch so I don't. So if I want to connect two objects into the chain, I have like 3 options how to do this in JavaScript. And that's because JavaScript is, evolving language. But it's good to know about all of them because you can find them in some, library, or if you compile it, if you transpile it with Babel, then you would see like older pattern being used. So one way of doing this is say, okay, I can define child with object create. And first parameters is object to use as a prototype. Yeah. So okay, I'll put a parent because that I want like this to be my parent. And I can define like some properties there. So I can say, okay, I want age there, for example, with value of 20, and I can specify those things like enumerable, configurable, whatever. I could do the same thing like this, just like if I don't need to do these configurations, I could write just okay, let's just put it into chain and child age is 20. And it's the same thing. So I'll use this. I'll
put it somewhere so we can reference to that later. But I'll use this. So I'll define. Okay. I will not define right now name, so we can see what's happening. So if I console log name, which is not in the child box, right? It's where it is. This picture. So child currently doesn't have name in it. So what JavaScript will do, it will look into this box and say, okay, child's not there. I'll use that reference and go to the parent and search for that name there. So let's look at it, if it works. So I'll execute it. No mistakes. And you could see when I call child name, it used parent. If I defined like child name here, child, sorry, then it will obviously log child. What happened was that I put that name here into this box, so JavaScript found it first and used that thing. So it basically goes through in this chain until it reaches like that there is no books. That the object reference is no books anymore. So if you create, we can inspect this chain a little bit. So let's look at this. I can use object. Okay, every object will have a special property, which please never access, but I'll show you. Which is called a child, which is called like this strange. But don't rely on that. It can be different in different implementations of JavaScript engine. So it's there, but V8 has it like this. But if you would use, I don't know, Microsoft Chakra, it could be probably different. It would be probably the same, but there could be engines that would name it differently. So if I console log it, I'll see that there is the parent object, right? And if I'm on the parent object, I will call proto, so I do like 2 steps. Then I will find something else. I'll find like object, some object here. What is this? It's basically object prototype. Yeah. So it's some object, some box that's there by default, and you can see that it's true. And this box holds all the methods that are available for all objects, right? So, for example, every object has a method toString by default, and this toString method is defined in this object prototype. Does it make sense? So far, so good. Yeah. So this toString is prototype of it's defined in this box. So if I call toString on child, it goes here, finds it here, and uses this default implementation. Make sense? Perfect. When I'm saying do not use this, you can inspect it in a better way, and it's get prototype of child. Yeah, and you could see. Okay, I'll leave it here so you can actually see. But I'll define object get prototype of child, and I could see that it would be equal to parent. So far, so good. You're with me? Does it make sense? Questions? No?
Every child can have only one parent?
Yes. No, nothing like multiple inheritance is there. Yeah, so yeah, it can reference just one thing. It has just one proto reference. Good question, by the way. Thanks for it. Okay. Let's discover more. What about functions? So if I define a function, I guess test. Because you saw previously that I use this, right? So how this works internally. You can think of functions, it's a box as well. It's the same thing as objects basically. And if I look into it a little bit, then I can see that prototype of test is, surprise, surprise, function. So basically it will be exactly equal to object called function prototype. So every function has its implicit prototype object, and it's called function prototype. This function prototype, let's look into this a little bit more. Get property names of function prototype. We can see what JavaScript offers by looking onto these things a little bit. And you could see that every method can have length, name, arguments, color, and here are those three things that I mentioned before: call, bind, and apply. Yeah, and also to string. So whenever you write a function, you can call automatically all these things on that function. Make sense? Let's visualize it a little bit. So if I have, I call killer, but that's basically my object, my function. It has prototype function where we define where those call, apply, bind are defined. And that function prototype object is basically object itself, and it references that object prototype, right? So let's look that if I'm telling you the truth. So console log. What if I do function? Okay, I'll use this, but don't do it. And I'll do two steps because it's shorter, right? Don't judge me for it. It's just for demonstration purposes. So I can ask, is it actually object prototype as I showed on that picture? And it is. So it looks exactly like this. Yeah. There's function, every function has its function prototype, and the function prototype points to this prototype object. Okay. Now it gets, now it will be a little bit more confusing. Now it's simple idea, but the way it's, okay, I'll show you and we'll talk about it. So, let's imagine that, okay, I'll copy this somewhere else. I'll start over. In JavaScript, there's one special feature, which is not in any other language, and this is something called constructor functions. So I can, okay, we have this friendly environment, so I'll call it killer again, and I'll call him John. What I did? Okay, I put name on function context. I'm not sure what it means yet, but we will see. We will show it. So basically, every function in JavaScript can be used for construction of new objects. How? I can say John is a new killer. Interesting, right? So I use this function to construct new objects from that But there's something a little strange. Every function has this prototype field. Don't be confused, but it's not that proto field. It's something different. This is basically just reference to another box. Some box. Just box. And I can put there something. So I will define my object. I'll call it killer product. And I'll say, okay, I can kill people. Killing. And I can say that this function that I use as a constructor function will point to this killer proto object. Why? Because if I use that function as a constructor function, that newly created object will get in its prototype that box that it's referenced from this field. I'll visualize that. So how it works. Now I'll make it bigger because it's very important. So basically I have killer function. That's the one I use for constructing objects. It has in its prototype function prototype. But it has special field called prototype. I'm not sure why they call it the same way, but it's somehow connected, so maybe because of it. And this prototype just references another object. That's normal object, so it has in its prototype object prototype. But if I use that killer object for constructing new John object, I'll create a new box, but that box will automatically get in its prototype that thing that was referenced by this prototype field. This is completely separated prototype chain from the original, and I can use as many objects as I want from that constructor function, but all those objects will get in its prototype this box. Let's go back into the code. So what I did, this is my constructor function. This is the killer proto that I showed. I'm pointing my prototype field to that object, and if I use that function as a constructor function with new, this John, and let's look at it, inspect. What is object get prototype of John? And I'm saying it will be killer proto. Do I have it correctly? Okay, that's good. And it's true. Yeah, makes sense. If I do 2 steps here, okay, I'll use that not nice thing. I'm saying it will be just object prototype because that's the way because this killer proto is just simple object, so it has in its prototype that default object prototype. Make sense? Questions? This is important to understand because we will build on this.
So is it basically like an extension?
Extension of what?
Like a class extension.
Class extension. You mean like classes in JavaScript, or you mean like in other languages? Because there are something like extension methods in C#. I'm not sure what you are referring to.
I'm maybe referring to that the original killer has kill function. Basically, that kill function is extends this killer object, gives him ability.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, when I want for newly created objects to have some shared feature, I have to put it into their prototype that they share, so they can share methods, right? So yeah, exactly. I'm extending this object because I will move some stuff that's shared. So let's imagine that I will not only create John killer but Mark killer. Mark killer will have prototype also pointing to this thing. So they both will have kill method because they have the common prototype. Yeah. So yeah. Correct. Okay. So I'm leaving this. Is it clear enough? Okay. Now something that might be, yeah, one thing I didn't mention, and I'll go back to that. You could see that when I was using that foreign loop, it offered me this thing has own property key. It's available on every object, and basically what it does is you ask, hey, is it in the box I'm looking at, or is it in prototype chain somewhere else, right? So if I would say, hey, is, okay, let's say, hey, John has own property kill. Is it own property of John, that kill method? If I console log it, what it should say. What it should say? False. Hopefully. Oh, it was not defined. Yeah, I should name it. It's name. Just name. Yeah, it's false.
So it doesn't look up the, it only looks at the first level.
Yes.
Oh.
It only looks at first level whether that thing is in that first box. If it's in prototype chain, somewhere in prototype chain, it will return false.
But there is a has property of method? Is there another method that looks up the chain?
Oh, if you want to test it, you can just use this, like, hey, if, like, okay, is property defined? And I can say, okay, just, if it gives me John kill something, otherwise it would give me undefined. If it's not there, this would give me undefined, right? So if I use something like this would be undefined, and it would convert it to false. So if I just want to check whether it's somewhere in the chain, I can just ask directly. I don't need any special method for that. Yeah, so, and it's often what you do, you, for example, say, okay, if John, I don't know, has some property defined as age, then I do something based on that. Yeah, usually in JavaScript you don't use something like, hey, is this undefined? Because it's easier to, okay, I should probably mention this. So we have like strange things in JavaScript. There's something, but I like JavaScript. I know it might seem that I like hate JavaScript, but it's fine. So you see, first is true because of implicit conversion, second is false. So there are like two things. First thing is there is like two nulls. One is when property is not defined at all on that object, for example, and one when it's set to null. It's defined, but it's set to null. So to give you like example, let's imagine I have object and it has first name, John. If I say first name, it's obviously defined, but if I say last name, it will give me, hey, this is undefined property on that object, so it's not there at all. If I do last name, like now, it will give me like
problem.
Sorry. It will give me now. Yeah. So basically in JavaScript you often when you want to do like some stuff based on whether the property is there or usually you understand those two things like one in business logic, right? Because if something is not undefined or is null, you basically do the same logic. So basically you often just specify, hey, if object has last name, then because this will, if I put it into if statement, it will do that Boolean conversion automatically. I could do this like manually, but JavaScript will do it for me, so I don't need, right? So usually you don't compare it directly to null or undefined because you usually like take both cases as the same. But that's different. But I a little bit lied that it's not there. What I could do is strange thing, but I can define it as undefined, which is, you know, undefined. So not be confused. It's a little bit fun. Okay. Does that make sense? Proper good. Hopefully you will not throw Nodejs coding after this lecture. But don't be afraid. Like these are concepts that you will probably not care about too much, but it's good to know. And as I basically told you, because if you know about them, then you are okay always. But if you don't know them, then you do things that might result in strange errors. Okay. Now for Java developers and C# developers classes. Sorry. By the way, what time is it? We will have some break after probably this part. Okay, so we can take some water and snacks. Okay, so. What are classes in JavaScript? That's basically new keyword, and I remember that there are people in the community saying like, hey, introducing classes in the JavaScript is strange, we shouldn't do that. And well, there were like fight between those two groups of people, one supporting classes because it was something they liked, and people who are saying this hides concept how JavaScript works, and they kind of, I think they are right, but I think it's good to, personally my opinion is that having classes in JavaScript is a good thing because it's easier to run these prototype chains with them, but you can argue, like some people say maybe object create is enough and we should like keep just that, but I don't know, what do you think? JavaScript developers. Classes, yes or not? No. Or no?
Yeah.
Who is for classes in JavaScript, by the way? Okay, and who is against? You see? Two groups of people. Okay. Classes are there, we have to know how to work with them, right? So let's face it.
Yeah.
But don't be it's like no new concept. It's just basically syntax sugar. There's nothing new. Classes are basically constructor functions. Yeah? Can we test? Of course. So if I test what is killer object get prototype of killer, I'm saying it's just function prototype as with functions. Is it true? Should be. It's true. So it's just hiding that concept that I described before. But what happens if I do something like this? Shooting killer. which extends killer. Oh, no, it's starting to be weird. And what if I define like things in it? Like this guy can kill, right? Link. And this guy can shoot. Shooting. What if I create John, which is new shooting killer? How the prototype chain looks now? It's prototype chain. There's nothing more. It's just prototype chain as we were used to. Yeah. So basically, I'll just visualize that again. Basically, what happens? This is constructor function, which has in its prototype this constructor function. And but where are these things, right? Surprise, surprise. You might be surprised, you might be not. But it looks like this. So shooting killer is constructor function, which has in its prototype killer function, which is common function, so it has in its prototype function prototype, and the function prototype has object prototype. When I define kill method in that class, which looks like something different, but it's not, it just it just creates a prototype object, so it creates it automatically for you. And it will put that method in the prototype. That in that object that it's referenced but by that constructor function in that prototype field. If I define shooting killer, that also has its prototype reference to this box. And if I use that shooting killer as a constructor function, then it creates John, and because of the same concept, the John will receive in its prototype these two boxes. Make sense? Who is confused? No? Good? That's good. Seems you understand. Cool. Okay, let's test it. Okay, so I'm saying that John and its product, don't use this field by the way, is I'm saying that in its prototype it will receive object that was referenced by shooting killer prototype. Yeah, so this is shooting killer constructor function. It has its field reference pointing somewhere, and I'm saying that newly constructed box will get in its prototype chain this box. Yeah, so that's it. And it's true. Yeah. If I do like 2 steps, then I'm saying it's that box referenced by killer constructor function, and it should be true as well. Yeah? All good? Good. So if you don't have any questions about this, I will probably leave it, and we can have a break, small break, and after that we will go to more usable stuff, let's say. Okay, so we'll continue, and I'll talk a little bit about, no questions so far, all good, prototypes, objects, dates binding, anything coming to your mind? No? Okay. Okay, so I'll move to these 4 concepts, and we will start with closures. That's easy one. Okay, so what is closure? What is closure? Can anyone answer?
Sorry. It's like almost like variable scope inheritance in a way.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like when somebody asks me, I always don't know how to explain it exactly. But basically, I think closure is function that
takes reference to outer scope variables or context. Let's look at it. So imagine that I would have a function. I would call it get answer to everything. I don't know. And
42.
and exactly, result is 42. But what I can do in JavaScript, I can the result of function can be function. Why not? Function is first class citizen, so I can pass it around. So I can create a function, new function, which will be like result of that function. Right? So it's function returning function. Make sense? So I'll call it get answer to everything function. Yeah. And I'll say, okay, answer is result. So answer or give me answer would be get answer to everything. Yeah, so I call it function and it will give me a new function. So I can call it function or give me answer. So now if I run it, it gives me correct answer. And but how it works? So basically, you could think that when I execute this function, then on this line here, you might think, okay, because this function already like is completed, then garbage collector that is in JavaScript could theoretically take this variable, local variable, and destroy it because why not? But it cannot. The opposite is true, and that's because of closure. Because closure is function that can take like references to outer context. Yeah. So because this function is referencing that constant here, garbage collector cannot do anything here at this point. It cannot release this memory. So be aware of that because this is common way how to do memory leaks in JavaScript. So if that thing would be, let's say, global object, this function can take the reference to global object as well. So be aware that this global object cannot be destroyed by garbage collector because something is referencing. Yeah. So sometimes you might be surprised that your memory is like increasing, and that's because something is referencing something. You thought that it could be like garbage collected, but it's not because some closure is referencing that thing. Yeah. So that's all. That's all about closures. Closure just function referencing outer context. Nothing more, nothing less. Make sense? Cool. Okay, now finally something that you will use on daily basis. Or we will get to that, but this is really important for Nodejs, so please keep this in mind. If you didn't like watch it, now you should watch it. The way Nodejs works is it's okay. So there are multiple ways how to handle I/O operations. In browser, you don't have that many because you cannot like write things to file system but you can, for example, call some requests, right? So basically, everything that is related to I/O is operation that can be done by operating system, but Node.js doesn't need to wait for it. What it means, you can think of Node.js as like it's like a manager. It's just telling to operating system, hey, write this on disk, send these bytes, send these packets through network card. But Node.js doesn't need to wait for a result. It can continue executing JavaScript code, and operating system will notify through some internal operating system hooks, event hooks, can notify Node.js that, hey, bytes from the like response of that request came, and you can do whatever with you want with this data. Or file is already written on this, but you don't need to wait until it rotates the disk, or if it's SSD, there's no rotation, but whatever. So just keep that in mind. You have in JavaScript something called event loop. You will go into this more deeply on next lecture. What language features we have to do those asynchronous calls? So let's imagine a function like this. Call API. And let's say I have URL. I will not call our API directly, but I will like simulate that call with set timeout. You all know set timeout, so that's basically a function that's executed after specified number of milliseconds. So I can say, okay, execute this function after, because we have really slow internet here, 1 second, right? That's mine. And we will want to return something, but I cannot do like something like this, or return something, because this result will not get out of this function, right? So what I needed to do when in old ages in JavaScript, when there was no support for this as asynchronous operation, like set timeout is asynchronous operation as well. It starts timer somewhere else, it continues execution, and once it's done, it can it will load that context and start executing this function. To demonstrate this, I could actually demonstrate it, right? So let's say, hey, API finished. So if I do starting, then I call API, and then I console log. When this will happen? So do you know what the order will be in this case of what messages? So yeah, starting, when this will happen, API finished. Yeah. So basically, we executed this line, then we started the timer. The timer was started somewhere else, but JavaScript continued to interpret like other lines. Then it logged this thing, and after some time, that internal timer scheduled on some queue this function and event loop is some internal stuff in Node.js that puts that execution, that schedules that execution on for the V8 engine. So when I wanted to like receive some results from this, I had to pass callback. And then if I needed to okay, I'll say API input call, and I need to process like results. So then I needed to pass callback function that will be executed after my call will be done. Okay, in Node.js there's a convention, and keep that in mind because it's all in all native in the framework of Node.js that's coming with Node.js. It's used that when you have function that takes callback, that callback is always like last parameter, and that callback has this signature. First, always error, yeah? And then data that's returned from that. Okay. So for example, okay, I'll give you like example. In Node.js, you have file system module. This is how you can like reference modules. And file system module have write file, which is asynchronous thing because JavaScript doesn't need to wait for a file system to write a file. So I can specify, okay, I'll give it some path, but let's say, I don't know, values. Okay. There's another module for path. I can say, okay, path join current dir name, which is like something provided by Node.js, but more about that later. I'm kind of like leaning to Node.js, but you will go through this like in another lectures. So, but here you could see that it's taking some data, so I can put there some strings, let's say, and then there's callback, and first is error, and then there's some result. Okay, this doesn't give me any result, so I could maybe use better thing like read file, and you would see that in that callback I would receive error, and data is going as a second parameter. Yeah, so whenever you use like native modules in Node.js, they will always use this pattern. Whenever method takes callback, it will first receive error, and second will be like data. Make sense? Okay, so I'll delete this, we don't need this yet. So I'll use the same pattern here. So if I don't have any error, I can pass just now, and then I can pass some results. So let's say result from URL. Yeah. Okay. Let's see whether it works. So console log data here. Starting result from API.com. So this is one method that was originally the only method in Node.js how to write asynchronous code by passing callbacks around. But what was bad about callbacks is this thing. Imagine that you would like to call one service, and when you receive result, you would like to call another service, and when you receive result, you would call another service. Let's imagine a situation like this, and it happened because you, for example, wanted to send email. Once it's sent, you wanted to send something else. I don't know, write something to database. And once database write is done, then you wanted to do something else. These are all I/O operations, so you don't need to wait for them. So I'll say, okay, I don't know whether this API exists, but whatever. And I could say, okay, I'll pass here a callback, and I did something that I shouldn't do. I shouldn't hide use the same names, because this function, because it's Hosier, right? It can reference this data, so I wouldn't be able to reference this part. So I should say, like, I don't know, inner error and inner data, which is not nice. But I don't have any option. So when using callbacks, I'll come to a better solution in a minute. So I'll inner data. So just check whether it still works. Result, API macros. Okay. I'll use one more just to make it more visible. So what else is at home? I don't know. Now I don't know even how to name these things. So
Inner.
inner, I don't know. Output sub error, I don't know.
Data
Yeah. So, and let's imagine that I needed for here in this function, I needed like things from this call. So because of closure, I could use it. So I can put here, okay, let's print data together with some data. Just so make it. So you could see that pattern, that the triangle is here. Because when you like want to nest these IO calls, it can result in this like shape, and it's called callback how. So if someone asks you what is callback how, that's exactly this thing, like nesting callbacks into it. So it was pretty hard to keep your Node.js code like nice when you had callbacks only, because you really needed to structure things in a way that it's like small and one piece is just. But to be able to track how those callbacks are called between each other, that was something painful. And surprise, surprise, there's a better solution nowadays. But it's not so old. Don't be surprised. It was like, I don't know, 2 years ago when async came to to Node.js. So it's not that like history. Okay, let's rewrite it into something else. What do we have? We have promises. Do you know promises? How it works? Basically, instead of passing callback here, you could say, okay, instead of instead of me needing some callback parameter, I could say I'll give you a promise that, and that promise I can create promise like this. Okay. So promise, I can construct new promise, and I have to pass a function to that promise, and that function will get these two parameters, and I can use them to either reject or resolve. Resolve means everything successful, reject means basically something bad happened, right? So I would rewrite it like this. Let's move it here, and instead of callback, I would call okay, resolve with this call, this thing. Okay. I could do something like if something bad happens, something bad happens, then I could reject with some, and I can turn it so it doesn't continue anywhere with some new error. And give some error here. Yeah. Highlighting is okay. So I'm not using this right now. I will just assume that my API is working all the time, which is not true in in a real scenario. So you should basically always handle errors as in every language. So how could I don't need callback anymore because it's returning a promise. How can I rewrite this bad thing into something better? So instead of passing callback, I could say just when it's done, when the promise is done, then continue with this function. This function. And it will be data. Right? So I could move this statement here. And if something goes wrong, I could just catch some error here. And say, okay, console error. Yeah. What I could do, by the way, that's just side note, is that I could pass a reference to that function like directly, but I will not do that to make it more easy. So I have just first call. What about those others? So I can combine promise calls like this. I can call it here, But I don't need to nest it. I don't need to write the then here, but it will automatically go to this then. Yeah, so this then. Okay, so here it will be inner data, and I can log inner data. And I will do it once more, so we have it complete. Return this, and I can have one then more with some data. And what about now? I have this like console log which needs data from the first call. That's a shame we don't have it because this scope is not outer scope for this function. So closure cannot be used here, closure mechanism. So what I had to do is something I don't really like, but I had no other option when there were only promises in JavaScript. And it's putting it into outer scope. So I could have something like let result, and I could have something like result is data. So I could access that result somewhere here where I need it. Which was wait for it, it will be much better. I just want to mention it because it's good to know, you know. So this is not ideal either, but we can test whether it works. Oh, where is it? Oh. So starting API, Microsoft, Google, and Apple. Okay, so everything works as expected. The good thing, what promises, when promises came, they made it much better because now you don't have that callback hell, right? And even more, you could combine asynchronous calls with synchronous calls. So if I would return synchronous, say some value here, it will automatically go to that then chain. So you could see API and Microsoft was pretty fast. It was immediate. Yeah. If I throw an error here somewhere, or if any of those calls would reject the promise, it would my error. It would go into that catch block automatically. Yeah. So much better than callbacks, definitely, but not the best solution yet. So how can we make it better? We will use new ECMAScript 2017 feature, which is called async await. Who knows async await? Just raise your hands. Okay. So please keep it in mind. You will use async await in Node.js like every day, like in every minute almost, like, because everything in Node.js is asynchronous. Node.js is built around this idea of event loop handling I/O operations, and you will need it like constantly. Because what you want to do in Node.js, you don't want to block that manager. It's basically one thread that's executing the JavaScript code, but it's only that manager thread that like tells file system and operating system what to do. But you don't have you want to keep it like you don't want to block it at all, because if you write something like what blocks your thread, your JavaScript thread, then you basically block the whole server, and no other request can be processed. So everything in Node.js, you have to basically for everything you have to use these I/O operations to not block Node.js main thread. Okay, makes sense? So far so good. Questions? Okay, so async array. Please now focus. That's like key if you don't get anything from this lecture, that's totally fine. Async await is something you will have to know. Okay. So async awaits is definitely not replacement from promises. They work like together. So I can define function. I'll call it run, just run. And I can specify its asynchronous function. Okay. What I can do, basically, I can take this call, which returns promise, and I can say, give me data, but not like this, but I have to await for those, like, wait for those data. So with this statement, I tell Node.js that, hey, this call will be asynchronous operation, so it will not happen immediately. You will receive result after some time. So just be aware of that. So you could see. So let's rewrite it to see the difference. I can take this. I can take this. I can take third call, which is where, let's see, oh, here, this, some data, some data, but it's not needed anymore because it's not messing. But you could see that I have the whole context loaded. So I could even reference it in my log message. So just I can take this and okay. So now translate this horrible thing into this nice looking function, and I can execute it. Right. So let's test. But I don't have an array of keywords.
Forgot. Exactly. Missing heavy keywords. So still working. Yeah? What is result of asynchronous function? Surprise, surprise. It's promise. Yeah, so when the asynchronous function like completes, then I can chain, or I can await it again in some other function, right? So what happens internally? Basically, JavaScript runs its first line. Here it knows its IO operation, so it basically ends execution of this run method. It goes here to this console log. That's why it was as a first line here. And once operating system notifies Node.js that operation, asynchronous IO operation is done, it will automatically load the whole context that I had previously and continues with that execution. So you could think of this as a like callback. And it's all done automatically, so you have access to these variables because Node.js loads that context for you. Does it make sense? Okay, much better. What I can do is also something like this. Let's imagine that I don't need to do one by one call, but I want to shoot to 3 APIs at once and wait for all results. That's normal scenario, happening quite often. So you can do something like promise, wait for all, and I can give it multiple calls or multiple like functions that are returning promises, or basically promises. It's taking multiple promises and converts it into one promise, which is resolved when all of those promises are resolved. What is the result? Basically, it's an array, and data will be in order
in which you specify these things. So I could say, okay, this is the second parameter is inner data, and third parameter is subdata. And I can leave there those console logs. So let's test it. And you see that it was after 1 second, all of those they were called at once. Does it make sense? Far so good? Yeah. Good. Okay. Let me check whether I didn't miss anything. Do you have questions on this? Okay, what about those errors? Good question.
Try catch block.
Yeah, and that's totally okay because I can use built-in try catch blocks. So I could move it just like this here, and I can catch error if something bad happens. So I'll just console log something bad happened. And let's say that this call will reject this promise. So return reject with new error name API not available. So what says this? Oh, something bad happened. All the API is called. So you see? What I could do also, if I don't want to do this, I could take this thing and put it here. Because result of asynchronous function is a promise, so I could also catch that error here. Make sense? Questions? Okay. So there are native promise implementation, like you have in Nodejs, there is native promise implementation, but there are also some libraries that are implementing promises like on its own. One popular is called Bluebird, and it has some nice features which I quite like. So which you could use, like I will just show you it like a little bit, but so you could basically something do like, okay, I require Bluebird, which I would have to install. It's Bluebird, and then you could do something like this, but like okay, for example, instead of all, I would use their special method called props, and I could do something like result 1, okay, 2, 3, and then basically I would receive an object instead of array, which would have these properties like object result 1. Yeah. So there are some handy packages that are extending this native promise implementation. Okay, I'll leave asynchronous patterns if you are okay with that, and if you have no other questions. Okay, good, cool. Now to iterators and symbols. Okay, I'll start with symbols. So what is symbol? Simple thing. Okay, symbol A. Symbol A. And then I can do symbol B. Now you can guess what happens if I write something like this. Who knows? Shout something.
Should be false, right?
It's false.
Symbols should never.
Symbol is basically a unique thing that you can use, and it's used by JavaScript itself, And because we have some they are called well-defined, well-known symbols. You can find them defined directly on symbol object. And one of them is, for example, symbol iterator. So, for example, if I have give you some good example. Let's imagine an array like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Right away, I could do like array is new array. It's the same thing as with objects. I could array push there or something. That's not quite it, but this is quite simple. Okay? Array is structure that is iterable. I can go through all the items in that array. So what I can test is it should give me iterator. When I access special field, and you can see how symbols are used. Symbol iterator is like special key for field that should that when it's defined on object, that object will be iterable. So that basically means that I can use it for off loop, which takes iterable object and goes through all the items in that structure. So let's go a little bit deeper. What is iterator, by the way? Let's look into this. I can console log iterator, and every iterator has okay. Basically, if I access this, it's a function. So when I call it, it should give me an instance of iterator. And every iterator needs to have next function. That's the only function that every iterator has. Yeah. So when I do this, I can see that every call to next will give me like this object or this shape with value and done. And value will be like one item from that structure. Yeah. So let's define our own iterator. So I'll define my function get iterator. Let's imagine that I have, I don't know, colors. Array, I don't know, white, blue, red. And I will return new object that will have just one field called next, which will be the function. And that function should give me object of this shape. So I'll do something like okay, current, here I need flat, current index is 0, and I can say okay if current index is less than colors length, then current value is colors current index, and I can increase current index and return object of this shape. Done is false because we are not done yet, and value is current value. And here, if the condition doesn't hold, then I can return an object with done is true. So simple iterator, it will give me iterator, and it will iterate through this like array. It doesn't really make sense, it's artificial, but you get it. That I'm just using it for demonstration. So now I can have my object, my iterable object, and I can define special field called symbol iterator. And I can put that
get iterator thing function here. What happens is that if I use for off loop item in my iterable object and console log that item, then surprise, surprise, what should happen? White, blue, red. So basically, JavaScript uses those symbols to be able to know whether that thing is supports. Because we are in dynamic language, we don't have such things like interfaces where we could say, oh, okay, this is iterable object. So it uses this symbols to know whether this object implements that functionality that it needs internally. Does it make sense to you? You will probably not need it too much, but that's just good to know that there is. Because we are now going to generators, that's the last thing. And I'm already behind the schedule, sorry for that. But it's the last thing, then it will be really quick. But generators are basically special functions that are returning iterators. Magic, magic. Okay, can I go away from iterators? Does it make sense to you? Questions? No? No. Okay.
I can.
Okay.
Do you have some real life example of using iterators?
In Nodejs,
No, yeah.
to be honest, in my I don't know how many years I'm working in Nodejs, I've never needed to write my own custom iterator. But it's kind of good to know how it works in the because you can know what to expect. When you see, for example, some library that is using this pattern internally, then you know how it actually works.
Does like Redux Saga have any custom iterators in it?
You got it. Redux Sagas, they use generators, and then use exactly this principle. Exactly this.
But I don't think that even in there they have custom iterators written.
They are using generators.
Yeah, yeah. So they're using generators.
So let's look into this. So generators, what are generators? Generators are special functions that are generating things, right? So I can say generate colors. You could see this is not done by mistakes. By mistake, it's syntax for generator function. So with wire. And in such function, I can use special keyword called yield. I can say yield red, yield blue, and yield green. If I call this function, I get iterator. So let's colors iterator and generate colors. So if I do colors iterator next, and next, can inspect node 12, and it was red, blue, green, and then it was undefined and done through. Yeah. What I can do, so now I will do strange thing. Can I do this?
Well, if it's spelled right. The
It's-
while.
That while true, even it. Oh, sorry, it should be while.
You got stuck in colors.
Yeah. While that's really my whole point. That while true is something that looks strange, really, right? But when you have when you have function that's returning iterator, basically the caller can manage how the function will be executed, right? Because I can specify how many times I want to call that next thing. Yeah, so if I do this, it will give me
Don't you want yield counter plus plus or?
Exactly. Yeah, that's actually good that I did it. What happens if I use a return in generator function? It immediately returns value and sets down to true. So that when you set down to true in one iteration, all other iterations will look like this. Yeah? But I should do yield because I don't want to exit it. So now I can call it. So basically, iterator is a structure that gives you like pointer into some, could be even like collection that is never ending. So we can, for example, generate Fibonacci numbers on demand, yeah, or something like that. Okay, back to this. Okay. I can combine generators. Generate numbers. Yield 1, yield 2. And what I can do is use this syntax, yield generate numbers. Press, red, 1, 2, blue. Yeah. So from here I can basically tell how many times I want to, how many iterations I want to do. And that's exactly what happens in Redux sagas. They basically, every iteration of Redux saga call will return so-called effect, and that effect instructs that Redux saga middleware what to do. So they basically, in those sagas, you basically specify how these iterations should be executed.
What happens if you don't put the asterisk next to the yield?
I think it returns actually that iterator itself.
Oh, okay.
So, but I'm not sure. Yeah, it's object and it's
Okay.
iterator. Okay, one last thing, and it's strange. You will not use it, but it's good to know, as always. With generators, there's a special thing. You can pass data back to the generator, and that's what Redux sagas also do, is some value, and I can then access the value here. Yeah. Why I put it on the first, on the second is basically when you call generator, it will stop execution here and wait until you call next. So next went to this line, and when I call next, the value is propagated to this constant. Okay, you don't need this really. Just be aware of that. What you need is asynchronous function, and that will be something I would like you to try with your homework. So I'll move to homework. Do you have any questions to generators and this stuff? No? All good? Okay, so I would like you to try a little get touch in with async await and callbacks and promises. So just to have some like comparison how difficult it might be with one method or a second. So your task will be to call external API. How you will do it? Okay, I'll show you. So you can. Okay, I'll put it home. 13 homework. Yes. So there is nice API, Star Wars API, which you can call. It's real world API. You can call it. There's nice package in Nodejs called request promise. You can install it with npm install, but I'll give you instructions into description. Install request promise like this. Install. And
it will install a package for sending requests over internet. You have to install also a related package called request. And what's the difference between those? Request is uses like callback API. Request promise uses like API with promises. So I would like to you to try like task that I will describe in the specification in all three using all three methods: callbacks, promises, and async await. So you can compare how it works. So basically, this is like third with async await. This is the simplest. That's why I use it. But you should really try all of those three approaches. So if I call this 13, it will send a request to that, hopefully. Yeah, it will give me some JSON. So I would like you to find some data on their API. I will describe how, and please do it with callbacks, do it with promises, and do it with async await. I'll send you a proper description after, probably tomorrow. Okay? Does it make sense to you? Any questions about your homework? No? Yes? Okay, good. I'm done.